Wondering which champion to get started with in League of Legends Wild Rift? This guide will highlight the most beginner-friendly picks on the roster. With League of Legends Wild Rift, Riot Games finally took their acclaimed League of Legends IP and gave it a mobile makeover. This mobile counterpart really put in the effort when it came to translating the complexity of PC League systems into a more bearable portable format. Only around 51 of its 140-plus champions made it to Wild Rift, at least as of this writing. Still, choosing from 51 champions might feel overwhelming for newcomers. If this is your first time playing Wild Rift and you have little to no MOBA experience, then you'll need to take your time to learn the ropes. The game looks simple from the outside, but you'll realize nothing as easy as it may seem once you load into a match. Many different objectives are scattered around the map, and each champion will have role-specific tasks to fulfill. Watching guides and others will be your best source of information to better yourself in Wild Rift. But that knowledge won't mean anything if you can't put it into practice. Picking a simple champion that is a good fit for beginners will allow you to observe what's going on around you better, since you won't be dealing with complicated mechanics. Beginner-friendly champions aren't necessarily weak. In fact, many of them are some of the most powerful characters in the game. The difference that makes them easy to play is their kits. Most easy-to-play champions will have simple skill shots, passive abilities, and targeted spells. Try to focus on your role's objectives while playing the following champions and observe your surroundings as much as possible. So, without further ado, let's begin the video.
First, we start from Baron lane. When you first start playing Wild Rift, the Baron lane will possibly be one of the better places to get the basics. Considering you'll also be going against other new players, the lane's isolated position should give you enough breathing room to take things slowly. It'll be a 1 versus 1 lane most of the time, unless the enemy jungler decides to surprise you with a sneaky gank. You can pick Dr. Mundo. If you were to hold a poll today to determine the most straightforward Wild Rift League champion, Dr. Mundo would likely appear in the top 3. Mundo's passive lets him sustain in the lane by providing health regeneration, and his natural tankiness makes him one of the more difficult champions to kill in Wild Rift. Even Mundo's main aggressive ability Infected Cleaver grants him healing upon successful hits, and he can also drain his own health to gain resistance against crowd control abilities. With a passive active third spell that gives him both tankiness and attack damage, Mundo is already a threat by himself during the laning stage, and he becomes even tankier after unlocking his ultimate. All of this tankiness will allow you to go wherever you please, and you'll always be a nuisance to deal with for the enemy team. Next is Garen. Running out of mana to cast spells is possibly the worst feeling in any type of game. Even imagining a champion that doesn't use mana sounds good to be true, but Riot has already done that with Garen. Garen is another tanky champion that is quite good at sustaining in lane. With a passive health regeneration tool and a spell to boost his armor magic resistance, it may take more than one champion to take down Garen. All this tankiness doesn't mean he can't deal any damage, however, since the champion is equipped with excellent tools to take down any enemy he faces. One of his damage boosting abilities also doubles as a cleanse, which allows Garen to remove all debuffs affecting him. Judgment allows Garen to spin and grants him the power to move through units, meaning your opponents will have a hard time while running away from him. The same ability, Decisive Strike, also allows Garen to silence his target on hit, turning into a great lockdown tool. Garen's ultimate is his bread and butter since it deals true damage, which bypasses all armor and magic resistance reductions. It's a great tool to finish off enemies, and it also deals bonus damage depending on the target's missing health. Baron lane is not only the lane in Wild Rift. Now, we will take a look at junglers. Jungling is the most demanding role in both Wild Rift and League. A jungler's role is to help the other lanes as much as possible while making sure they also get enough farm and outperform the enemy jungler. Though this role isn't recommended for a beginner who has never played Wild Rift before, you should be fine if you already know the basics of the game alongside each role's responsibilities. We strongly recommend watching a couple of jungling guides before you dip your toes into this role, since knowing what you need to do inside a game will help you drastically. Or you can just watch our guide for jungling. First is Amumu. Considering jungle is the most hectic role of all, starting your journey with a simple champion will let you understand the role's core mechanics. Amumu is the saddest champion in Wild Rift, but he's one that every magic damage heavy team will grow to love. Alongside featuring a magic damage heavy kit that's made of 2 passive active spells, Amumu's passive also causes his targets to receive 10% bonus true damage from all pre-mitigation magic damage sources. His massive area of effect, AOE, ultimate ability causes everyone affected to receive Amumu's passive debuff, Curse Touch. You can gank any lane with your easy-to-hit skill shot stun ability, and combining it with your ultimate after level 6 will make you a valuable asset for your team in teamfights. Next is Master Yi. Master Yi may not look like it, but he's one of the game's highest damage dealing champions. Despite not featuring any type of lockdown or durability ability, Master Yi makes up for it by moving fast and dealing unbelievable chunks of damage. His passive does most of the heavy lifting since it allows Yi to collect stacks that empower his following attacks by 50% of his AD physical damage. His blink-like first spell allows Yi to vanish in a fight while slashing through enemies. His third ability is a basic empowering spell that buffs his auto attacks for the next 5 seconds. What brings Master Yi to the next level is his ultimate, which reduces the current cooldown durations of his basic abilities by 70% after taking down enemies. This means once Yi starts racking up kills, it's almost impossible to stop him, and activating his ultimate grants him immense movement speed. This movement speed is supported by immunity to slowing and crippling abilities, meaning stopping Yi turns into an almost impossible task. Next, mid laners. Just like the Baron lane, the mid lane is also a great place to start if you're playing by yourself. The 1 versus 1 nature of the map will allow you to focus on your gamma play, but you should always look out for the enemy jungler who may be prowling near your lane. You can pick Annie. What harm could a little kid with a teddy bear do against monster-ish champions? Well, don't think any less of Annie due to her size, because she's a pyro master who can turn your laning phase into a literal hell. What makes Annie great for beginners is her lack of skill shot spells. This means most of her spells are targeted, lowering the chances of you missing. This is a rather unusual trait for mage champions, since most feature challenging mechanics that make them rewarding to master. Killing minions and poking your enemy in the lane is quite easy with Annie due to the nature of her nukes, and she even has a movement speed ability that makes her quite hard to catch. The only skill shot ability Annie has is her ultimate summon, Tibbers. This ability deals a considerable amount of magic damage to enemies, and you can always use your passive stun to set it up. Next is Lux. Lux is another straightforward mage champion that features quite easy to hit skill shots. Her passive aims to increase her overall damage output by her other spells, and she comes with great tools to dominate the mid lane. Lucent Singularity is an excellent spell to clear out minion waves, and it's almost impossible to miss it when you use it on an enemy due to its projectile speed. Activating this spell for the second time will cause it to explode and slow anyone affected alongside damaging them. Use this ability to set up for your skill shot stun, light binding, and crown the moment with Final Spark. Final Spark is Lux's ultimate is a laser beam that deals a significant amount of damage to an enormous range. Consider assisting other lanes with your ultimate if you feel like you can help to secure a kill to increase your presence around the map. The Dragon lane is where the best of friends shine or swear not to play with each other again. The only dual lane of the map by design features 4 champions that aim to get the most out of the lane while making sure their enemies don't. First, we take a look at AD carries. First is Ashe. Dishing out the most amount of damage possible with each auto attack is the goal of all AD carries. Not only is Ashe a great champion to start with due to her long range, her slowing abilities also makes her one of the champions that are impossible to run from. Her passive allows Ashe's auto attacks to slow enemies, helping your support land their skill shots. Ashe's kit involves spells that increase her attack speed, physical damage output, and even more slow. This allows Ashe to scale at multiple aspects of the game like pushing, kiting, and setting up ganks. She even has a global presence around the map due to her ultimate, a gigantic arrow with a huge travel distance. This arrow stuns the enemy it hits for 1 or 3 seconds based on the amount of distance it travels. Ashe's ultimate is a great way to set up ganks, which causes her enemies to play extremely cautious after hitting level 6. Next is Misfortune. First-person shooter players may be familiar with the term spraying and praying. Misfortune is the Wild Rift equivalent of this. Though the champion features some complex mechanics like her double-up ability, where she needs to line up enemies to get the most out of it, the end game always depends on whether she can hit a decent ultimate. Her ultimate bullet time is a channeling spell that she fires several waves of bullets to deal damage based on her attack, AD, and magic, AP. Damage stats. Considering each wave can also critically strike, the spell can suddenly one-shot an entire team. Another aspect that makes Miss Fortune great for beginners is that hitting minions is relatively easy since her next basic attack on a different target always deals extra damage. Every AD carry needs good support by their side. Supports make sure that AD carries always have enough protection and also scales at enabling their team. You can take Alistar. Alistar is one of the oldest champions in League, so seeing him in the first wave of champions that became available in Wild Rift wasn't a surprise. Alistar provides sustainability in the lane with his passive healing and is a playmaker by nature with his stun. His charging ability, Headbutt, makes it extremely easy to set up for his stun, and charging Trample will also let you stun a target for the second time. The locking down ability he brings to the table should be enough for your AD carry to dish out enough damage, and things will only get easier once you hit level 6. Alistar's ultimate turns the champion into a damage-soaking machine since it grants him a massive damage reduction status for 7 seconds. Using his ability wisely should help you survive through some of the strongest abilities in Wild Rift. Now you can take enchanter supports, which are Janna, Soraka, Sona. For Janna, speed is everything. Her wind-themed kit in Wild Rift allows her to boost her and her allies' movement speed while decreasing her opponents'. Her Tailwind, passive, boosts Janna and her nearby allies' movement speed. She imparts the same benefits to herself with Zephyr, S2, which also summons an air elemental that damages and slows enemies. Meanwhile, her Howling Gale, S1, creates a storm that increases in size that deals damage and knockdown to enemies. Additionally, her Eye of the Storm, S3, gives allies a temporary shield that boosts their defense and attack damage. Lastly, Monsoon, ult, unleashes a storm around Janna that pushes enemies away while healing nearby allies. And Sona's nature as a support mage hinges on skill combination, as her songs, spells, also grant bonuses to nearby allies. Additionally, her Power Chord, passive, gives both a magic damage boost and an additional effect based on Sona's third spell cast. Her primary damage spell is Hymn of Valor, S1, which damages 2 nearby enemies and gives allies a temporary damage boost. Her Crescendo, ult, also deals massive damage to enemies while stunning them. If you haven't decided on the type of role and champion to kickstart your Wild Rift career, then going with an enchanter support should give you enough time to make up your mind. Each enchanter champion features similar characteristics. Janna, Soraka, and Sona all come with healing abilities alongside slows and some damage. You'll need to watch your positioning while playing these champions since they're fragile, and enemies who are smart enough will be targeting you before your AD carry. Managing to stay alive with the champions will make it extremely difficult for the enemy team to kill whoever you're protecting. The shields and heals they provide also come with small bonuses like attack damage, movement speed, or extra shielding.